Good morning, Rabotai. Welcome to Breakfast on the Class. Breakfast on the Class today is dedicated for the speedy and completed Refuah Shlema of Chana Bat Simcha Fega and Eliyahu Shimon Ben Mazal Fortuné. As well, Breakfast on the Class is dedicated in loving memory of Nishmat, Fortune's father, Avraham Ben Simcha Linyado, Alav Shalom, sponsored by Fortune and A.B. Betesh. Also, the week of Breakfast on the Class is dedicated in loving memory of Sinai Tur Chosh Bachsh, Alav Shalom Nishmat Sinai Tur Bat Shokrola, for her Askara, sponsored by her son Maurice Chosh. Also, Breakfast and the Class sponsored by Stephen Rappaport, the Breakfast King, dedicated in honor of Joe Shatri for his leadership as Shaliach Tzibur. Chazak Baruch, thank you. Also dedicated today in loving memory of our dear Yochai Kapla, Alav Shalom, Leilui Nishmat Yochai Ben Mazal, Alav Shalom, from the Kapla family. He was part also of our Edmund J. Safra Synagogue family. We were zochet to have him here right before I came. I still remember speaking in the Midrash at his Askara, right at the end of the 7 days of the Shiva. Hashem should bless family with simachot, with long life, with success, and everything that they do. Okay, my friends, I want to share with you something that I think is very beautiful, and I wish I had the details also to be able to share with you, but I don't have the details offhand, so I'm going to have to share it with you without the details. Okay? Let's begin. I was in Panama a short while ago, to give some classes, to give some shiurei Torah. Anyway, I finish giving the lecture on the stage. I come down, and a beautiful young girl comes up to me. Maybe she's, 8 or 9 or 7. I'm not sure exactly. I'm not really good at guessing ages. And she comes up to me right after the class is over, and she gives me something that she drew. She said, "I made you a drawing." And this was the drawing that she made me. I don't know if you can see that. That's I guess me on a stage. I don't know, I got a little curl over there, it's very nice. With a microphone, okay? She even drew a double-breasted suit. That is detail right there, okay? But this is the detail. She wrote on the sign, "That is wow." I'm not going to lie to you. It felt amazing. I want to hang it in my office. That is wow. Now, usually your critics are the people who come to many classes, people of your own age or adults. You think that a child is drawing something like that, might not mean so much to you as a speaker, but it meant the world to me to get a little paper like this from a young girl who's sitting in the audience with her mother, with her grandmother, possibly. My friends, that is what I want to talk about today. And I wish I messaged someone to get me her name so I can mention her by name. I'm sure when the class goes out, and we'll hear from our Panama faithful what this young girl's name is. And then maybe we'll put it in the comments. But that is wow. That is going to be the title of the class. That is wow. El Chachamim tell us something unbelievable. That when it comes time to sit in judgment for the Jewish people in Shamayim, when God decides how He's going to rule on your actions, on your year, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, how does God decide to rule? How does God decide to judge a person? The Gemara says something very interesting. It says, Kol ha'ma'avir al midotav, anyone who goes above and beyond the letter of the law, they pass over their midotav, which means they're relaxed about the rule. They're not standing on principle. They're not deciding to come down like a ton of bricks because you didn't say the exact thing that they wanted you to say or do the exact thing. But you know what? They forgive. They're the better man. They rise above. In Shamayim, ma'avirin alav, ma'avirin al midotehem. Also in Shamayim, they go beyond the letter of the law for him. So if this person hurt your feelings terribly, and you could be very upset at him, and you could turn this into a whole fight, and you could yell and scream and embarrass him, and you don't, you're quiet, then in Shamayim, when you hurt, so to speak, God's feelings, when you disrespected HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or His Torah, or His mitzvot, and in Shamayim, they should rule against you, you know what God says? He's not so careful with His honor. He doesn't demand, stand on principle, demand respect, yell at people, hurt, try and hurt them for what they do. So too in Shamayim, that's how we're going to be with Him. Let me give you an example of exactly this concept. Gemara relates that there was a very small group of people who went to Gan Eden alive. They didn't pass away, go through the suffering of death, but so to speak, they jumped into Gan Eden. One of the examples the Gemara gives is of Rabbi Levi. Anyway, he jumps into Gan Eden, and what does he do? In order to not be cast out of Gan Eden, I'm abbreviating the story and abridging it. He swears as soon as he gets into Gan Eden, I swear I'm not leaving this place. So they go to God, they said, the guy swore, what are we going to do? Take him out? You know what the heavenly court's answer was? Go check the books. Check if when he was alive, if he swore he would do something, did he keep his word or did he break his shivua? If he broke his shivua, take him out of Gan Eden, send him back. Let him die like everybody else. Okay? In his right time. Come to Gan Eden the normal way. But if he never broke his word, then here in Shamayim, you can't make him break his word. What you see here is that there's a pattern of mirroring that goes on in Shamayim. I want to give you an example, the way I like to explain and express this. And it's a little bit trippy, so if you're not, a creative or imaginative person, you might not appreciate this. I want you to imagine if they're 120 years old, you go to Shamayim, and as you walk into the large cavernous room of the Beit Din Shel Ma'ala, you see there's a beautiful big bench with all of the jury, and the heavenly judge is sitting there, and you can see all of the jury sitting there in these robes, their faces are covered, you're terrified, you step forward, they tell you, Shlomo Farhi approached the bench. Shlomo ben Ritz Yitzchak. Yahamod. You're shaking, you know how many things wrong you did. You take a step forward, they tell you all the way forward. You come all the way forward in front of the judge and the jury, and all of a sudden now that you're so close, you could see the jury, and underneath those hooded cowls, underneath those hoods, those robes, you see the first juror. Who is it? It's you. And the second juror is you, and the third and the fourth and the fifth. Instead of 12 angry men, it's 12 you men. All you. And you're flipping out. What's going on over here? See, in this world, you're judged by a jury of your peers. But in that world, you're judged by a jury of you. Who decides if what you did deserves punishment? You decide that. But you don't decide it in Shamayim. You decide it by the actions you took here on earth. So what's going to happen? You cut somebody off, they're going to bring it up on the video screen, and Hashem's going to pull out the book and He's going to say, okay, cut the guy off in traffic, and then yelled at him through the closed window. Why do we do that? Why do we yell at people through closed car windows? Okay? Yelled at him, and Hashem says to the jury, innocent or guilty? And then the juror, who's you, has to say that when he was in traffic and the other guy cut him off, what did he say? He called into question the man's patrilineal and matrilineal lineage. The minute that the guy did that, what happened? He sealed his own fate for that action later on. So when you demand a level of excellence from somebody else that you didn't demand from yourself, in this world you might get away with it. But in the next world, what happens? Who judges you on those actions, on those behaviors, on that mistake? You do. You see someone who's wasting his time, who comes late to shul, you yell at that guy for coming late to shul or not going to a class. Then when you don't go to a class, Hashem says, oh, you know something? Let's see. Is someone who doesn't go to class innocent or guilty? They bring you up saying you're a bum, you're this, you're that. Oh, Chazak Baruch, you finally came. Hashem plays back the videotape of you against you. It's you versus you. You're not judged by a jury of your peers, you're judged by a jury of you. So the behaviors that we take on in this world become the behaviors that they give us in the next world. My friends, so I want to talk about that as well. You know, there's a famous adage that goes, see something, say something. You see something, say something. Now what does see something, say something mean? When you see that in the street, and you see that in the subway, what does it mean? In a cab, huh? You see a crime, say something. You see a terrorist, say something, right? You see somebody, beating someone up in the street, see something, say something. But see something, say something is not necessarily a negative thing. What if we spent our time, instead of looking for negative things, we spent our time looking for positive things? Looking for moments where you could see someone's behavior and say to them, that is wow. I remember there was a gentleman who was here this morning. I was zochet to stand under their chuppah and marry them. At the chuppah, there were 8 sets of parents. Because the 2 parents of each of them got divorced. Okay? And they got remarried. 8 parents. 4 sets of parents. Instead of the bride had, a father and a mother and a father and a mother, and the groom had a father and a mother and a father and a mother. Each of them had 2 parents and 2 step-parents, all standing under the chuppah. Now, I was not speaking at that wedding. There was someone else who was speaking under that chuppah. I gave very brief remarks. But before I ended the chuppah, I said, I cannot end this chuppah without saying something in public. How many times does something happen between a couple and they get divorced? How many times does that result in anger and animosity and bitter and name calling and this and that? And they can't look at each other and they can't stand each other, and anytime they get a chance, they tear the other one apart. To be able to see somebody under a chuppah with all of the parents and the step-parents and the step-parents and the parents and the parents and the other step-parents, and everyone smiling under the chuppah, that's beautiful. Divorce happens. It does. It's part of the reality of life. It is. But how we treat that fact and how we deal with that fact is a whole other ballgame. You don't want to be with the guy doesn't want to be with the girl, fine. You went to marriage counseling, you did everything you could to keep it together. For whatever reason you're getting divorced, I'm very sorry that that's happening. The Shekhinah sheds tears when a couple divorces. It's a terrible tragedy. But we don't need to compound that tragedy by taking that negativity and that anger and that bitterness and that sadness and that blame and carry it on for years and decades after the fact. You don't need to tank that person's every chance at happiness with every other woman or every other man. You should not feel the need to get on the phone and say, he's a terrible guy, she's a terrible person. Now, if the person is abusive, beat you up, fine, that's something else, I understand. It's a different thing. But the idea that there could be all of these parents under the chuppah together is beautiful. And if you see something beautiful, say something. That is wow. And that's what I said. The community should look at this and understand what it looks like. After something like this goes down, how people can learn to get past, to move on and to live on. That is wow. My friends, our compliments, they don't only lift a person's spirits. They don't only make a person feel better or happier. Sometimes they make a person feel full stop. Let me explain what I mean. I used to love getting ice cream cones as a kid. But if an ice cream cone didn't have sprinkles, was it really an ice cream cone? It's only years later that I found out that a lot of those sprinkles are made out of wax. Did you know that? And I was just thinking, why was that a thing? Why are we eating wax? Did we think like our ears would be unable to produce unless we fed the body copious amounts of wax? What is that? Is that the issue? I don't know, but for the whole life growing up, there's the ice cream and then there's sprinkles. Right? Ice cream and then sprinkles. Sprinkles is extra. There's the ice cream cone, they charge you the money. But sprinkles is extra. That's extra credit. That's the next. A lot of times we think that a person gets a compliment, his life is sprinkles. Now he's in a better place than he was before. But what you don't realize is that sometimes it's not the difference between a day and a good day. It's a difference between not having a day at all and making the person's day. My friends, the Gemara tells us a story about how one of the Chachamim was going through the desert and he saw on the side of the road, I don't know if there's roads in the desert, but he noticed that there was you ever see the skull, with the horns coming out of it, like in the desert, everything's been eaten off it clean by the coyotes, by the birds of prey, and all there is just that the head of whatever, the ram or whatever it is in the desert that has horns, right? And the horns. And they point it out and they look at it and he says, "My, what white teeth it had." And he was not making a comment about a deer or a gazelle. It's not what he was talking about. What was he talking about? He was talking about being able to see something beautiful in something ordinary or even in something bad. My friends, every one of us is looking for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to find us zichuyot, to find amongst our many sins and mistakes, to find a few diamonds, to find a few good things. But we already learned that how do you get God to do that? You do it yourself. And that avodah, that work, is something that every one of us can do, and it makes a huge difference to somebody. The pasuk tells us, "Leven shinayim mihalav," right? It's telling us about the various shvatim, and then it gives this idea about one of the shvatim, and it tells us that his leven shinayim, right, mihalav, that he has white teeth from milk. So I don't know, maybe then they knew also that the teeth are nurtured by calcium. Maybe back then they also understood that idea. But either way, they have the leven shinai michalav. The Chachamim interpret this pasuk in a different way. Not that the teeth get white from milk, but that if someone comes and asks for the most basic necessities, for a little bit of milk, and you give him, instead of a milk, you give him leven shinayim, a smile. Sometimes a person could prefer that smile even to the most basic necessities of life. Now you know how I understand this? The way I understand this idea of leven shinayim mechalav, it's not that, okay, milk is here, and the Torah is telling you, leven shinayim, smiling is here. What the Torah is telling you is, if milk is a necessity, it carries vitamins that a person needs for their life. If milk is a necessity that a person needs, you know what else is a necessity? It's not a luxury. It's not sprinkles. You know what else is a necessity? A person needs to be smiled at. A person needs to be complimented. That mitzvah, that is a tremendous mitzvah. The Gemara tells us that Eliyahu Hanavi was once seen in the marketplace. And the rabbi comes up to Eliyahu Hanavi and he says, "Tell me, is there anyone in the whole marketplace here that is a ben olam haba, that's going to get a portion in the world to come?" Who do you think the Eliyahu Hanavi is going to point at? He's going to look for a Rosh Yeshiva. He's going to find. He says, "Those two guys over there." The rabbi goes running over. He says, "Why? What do you do? What zechut do you have?" They say, "Well, we're like clowns. We come to the marketplace. We do magic tricks. I don't know. We make people smile." So from a bustling marketplace of people, from a marketplace that I'm sure had people in it that get up for silichot and pray 3 times a day and learn daf yomi. Who's Eliyahu Hanavi saying has for sure a portion in Gan Eden? The people who made someone smile. It's unbelievable. How much does that cost you? I believe in Shamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu judges, as we say, Lefum Tzara Agra. According to the effort is the reward. That's what we say. You worked really hard for a mitzvah. That mitzvah is worth more than the mitzvah that you worked not hard at all for, correct? So as an example, if you walked an hour and a half to get to Shul for Minyan, it's not the same as if you live next building over from the Minyan. You're going to get more reward, schar pesiot, for the difficulty, for the walking, for the steps that you're putting in order to get to Shul. No question. But my friends, I also believe that idea works turned inside out. Lefum tzara onsha. According to the effort is the punishment. In Shamayim, when God sees a mitzvah that was really hard to do, that you failed at, Hashem says, look, he failed, but it was a very hard mitzvah to do. I'll give you an example, okay? So you have a guy, after a fast, comes down to a meal, goes down to his mother or his family, and he decided, Aseret Yemei Teshuva, you know what, this year I'm going to try eating Chalav Yisrael. Comes down after the fast, he's starving, his mother makes a whole meal, everything at the meal, not Chalav Yisrael. Now he didn't make a neder or anything, he just said, I'm going to try and do it. But how difficult is it? Guy hasn't eaten all day. Only thing to eat. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to look at this guy and say, listen, I know you said you were going to try, but this is very, very difficult. But let me ask you, let's say you have 2 sambusaks, one right next to the other. One is made with a kosher, with millet cheese that's not Chalav Yisrael, and the other one is made with millet cheese that had a run of Chalav Yisrael, because one day in the week they had a mashgiach come and do all the things that you need to do for Chalav Yisrael. The taste, exactly the same. The cheese, exactly the same. The sambusak, exactly the same. Now you have one sitting right. Now the guy says, you know what? I don't care. Takes the one that's not Chalav Yisrael. How do you think God looks at that? Let's make it worse. Let's say a person is learning, trying to keep kosher. You have 2 sambusaks in front of you. One's not kosher, one's kosher. They taste exactly the same. Don't you think the reward, the punishment's going to be worse when God says, it's not like you had a choice between not kosher and kosher. And you know what? It was so hard to turn down the not kosher. It made no difference whatsoever. My friends in Shamayim, what is God going to say? When someone walked by us and just this would have changed their day. Not sprinkles, made the whole day. Made them go to work differently. Made them feel differently. One compliment. Try it, by the way. You'll see. It's unbelievable. And it could be for the most inane things. On the sidewalk, random stranger. Guys walking the other way, say, wow, love your glasses. Watch what happens to the guy's face. Thank you. He didn't make the glasses. He didn't design the glasses. He went to the store and he paid for glasses that someone else made. Still, you're complimenting my taste. Nice tie, nice suit. Wow, cool briefcase. Doesn't make a difference. Find something. You see someone, made a beautiful plate. Wow, I see you really eating healthy. Hazaku Baruch. Great. Again, I wouldn't suggest, going and complimenting a married woman on her appearance, right? That was one of the most uncomfortable things for me in England, is that when you say someone's gorgeous, you know what it means? It means that they have a really nice personality. So I remember, I got there and some rabbi comes up to me and goes, Rabbi, your wife is gorgeous. How you doing, Rabbi? I was weirded out, I'm not going to lie. But it means that that's how they use the words. That the person's personality, they're so kind. It's like if you would say in Halabi, they're Adami. They're proper, they do the right thing, etc., right? If he was here, I would say Ajami, but he's not here today. But you could tell him, Ajami is Adami. My friends, what does it cost? Nothing. What's going to be the cost for something that didn't cost anything in Shamayim that you didn't do it? Quite high. But even more than that trade-off is the fact that you get to manipulate, you get to change, you get to influence your own judgment. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu then looks at you and says, how you doing? Nice shacharit. It wasn't such a nice shacharit. You spaced out half the time. You were sleeping for a little bit of it, okay? You answered 30% of the amens. You stood up and, only 10 minutes after you were supposed to stand up. It wasn't the best shacharit. But if you're a complimenter, then what does God become? A complimenter. God finds it. And I think that that's what we mean when we say, V'yikareu lefanecha zachuyotenu. We say the special prayer. We said it on the night of Rosh Hashanah. Right? When we eat the kira, the gourd, we say, Tikra ro'a gizadinen, rip up the evil decree. V'yikareu lefanecha zachuyotenu. And our good deeds should be recited in front of you. And I was thinking, on the night of Rosh Hashanah, you know something? I could do this without a gourd. I want to get God to read my good deeds. You know what I need to do? I want him to mention my good deeds. Mention someone else's good deeds. V'yikareu lefanecha zachuyotenu. And I just imagine like saying that to Hashem, and Hashem sees you walk in, you with your negativity, you with your cynical, you with always a joke at someone else's expense, okay? And Hashem's like, oh, you want me to compliment you, to find your zechuyot, to see the best in you? Guys, you with the hoods, let's play the videotape. And then all 12 versions of you sitting on the jury bench say, guilty. Oh, what power we have. Hashem should bless us to figure out ways to find opportunities to be able to say to people about everything that they do, not everything, about things that they do, that is wow. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen, amen.